Admiral Kethver stood tall on the command deck of his massive warship, the Dominator. His 6 arms moved across the control panels with practiced ease, while his 4 eyes scanned the star charts displayed before him. Activity as 30 Xanathi warships moved through the darkness of space. Like deadly predators hunting for prey, the Xanathi Empire had ruled the galaxy for 300 years. Their ships were the largest and most powerful anyone had ever seen. Each vessel carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. Their energy shields could stop any known weapon. No species had ever defeated them in battle. Most surrendered. The moment they saw the distinctive black hulls of Xanathi's ships approaching their worlds, Kethver remembered his first battle as a young officer. The enemy had been a proud warrior race, called the Maltheri. They had boasted about their courage and honor. They lasted exactly 17 minutes against Xanathi plasma cannons. Their cities burned for weeks afterward. The survivors begged for mercy and became slaves to the Empire. "Admiral, we are approaching the target sector," announced Commander Vextel from his position at the navigation console. His voice carried the respect that all lower-ranking officers showed to Kethver. The Admiral had earned his position through countless victories and ruthless efficiency. "Excellent," Kethver replied, his mandibles clicking together in a sound that other species had learned to fear. "What do our scouts report about these creatures?" Lieutenant Mordock stepped forward with a data tablet in his clawed hands. "The species calls itself human, Admiral. Our long-range sensors show they have achieved basic space travel. Their ships appear to be used mainly for mining operations and cargo transport. We have detected no military vessels of significant size." Kethver studied the information on the screen. Human ships looked primitive compared to Xanathi technology. They were small, simple designs that reminded him of the early spacecraft his own people had built centuries ago. These humans seemed to be scattered across only a few star systems. Their largest settlements appeared to be mining colonies extracting resources from asteroids and dead planets. "How many humans are there?" Kethver asked. "Intelligence estimates suggest approximately 10 billion individuals spread across 8 worlds and dozens of space stations," Mordock replied. "They seem to be expanding slowly, establishing new colonies every few years." The Admiral nodded. Approvingly, 10 billion slaves would be a valuable addition to the Empire. Human worlds could provide resources and labor for decades. Their technology, while primitive, might offer some interesting insights for Xanathi scientists to study. "Any signs of unified military command?" Kethver inquired. "Negative, Admiral. They appear to have separate governments for each world. Evidence of a centralized fleet or unified defense force? Most of their ships carry only basic defensive systems." Perfect, Kethver thought. Divided enemies were always easier to conquer. Humans would probably spend their time arguing among themselves instead of organizing proper resistance. The time they realized the threat, it would be far too late. Commander Vextel spoke up from his station. "Admiral, should we follow standard conquest protocol?" Kethver considered the question. Standard protocol involved positioning the fleet around the most populated human world and demanding immediate surrender. If they refused, the Xanathi would demonstrate their power by destroying a few cities. Most species surrendered after seeing what Xanathi weapons could do. "Yes, Commander. But let us make this interesting," Kethver decided. "These humans have never seen real military power. We shall give them a proper demonstration of Xanathi superiority." The Admiral turned to address his bridge crew. Every officer stood at attention, waiting for orders. These veterans had served with Kethver through dozens of conquests. They knew their roles perfectly. "Gentlemen, we are about to add another species to our glorious empire," Kethver announced. "The humans will learn what countless others have discovered. Resistance against Xanathi might is futile. Their primitive technology cannot match our advanced weapons and shields." "Sir, what are your orders regarding prisoners?" asked the security chief. "Take as many healthy specimens as possible for the slave markets. Scientists, engineers, and skilled workers are particularly valuable. Eliminate any who resist too strongly." The bridge crew acknowledged their orders with enthusiasm. Another easy victory would mean promotions and bonuses for everyone involved. The humans would provide entertainment as they begged for mercy and offered to surrender their most valuable possessions. Kethfer walked to the main viewing screen that showed the stars ahead. Soon, those stars would illuminate burning human cities. The survivors would spend the rest of their lives serving the empire that had conquered them so icily. "We are entering the outer edge of human space," Commander Vextal reported. "Sensors detect a small mining operation on the third planet of this system." "Excellent. That will serve as our first target. Order the fleet to battle formation. We shall announce our arrival in a manner these humans will never forget." The 30 Xanathi warships moved into their practiced attack pattern. Each vessel was over 2 kilometers long and bristled with weapon systems that could crack open planets. Their energy shields glowed with deadly power as they prepared for combat. Kethfer felt the familiar excitement that came before each conquest. Soon, another species would bow before Xanathi's superiority. The humans would join the long list of civilizations that had learned the price of opposing the Empire. "Admiral, we are receiving some kind of transmission from the human settlement," Lieutenant Mordok announced. "Put it on speakers," Kethfer ordered. He wanted to hear the fear in human voices when they first saw his fleet approaching. Static filled the bridge before a strange voice spoke in an alien language. The translation computers quickly converted the words into Xanathi speech. "Unknown vessels, this is Mining Station Alpha 7. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." Kethfer laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. The humans sounded so calm and polite. They had no idea what was about to happen to them. Commander Vextel prepared to broadcast our standard surrender demand. "Let these humans understand their situation." The communication officer activated the fleet's transmission systems. Soon, every human in this system would hear the voice of their new masters. The conquest of humanity was about to begin. The space around the gas giant Kepler 442b shimmered as 30 massive Xanathi warships materialized from hyperspace. Their black hulls reflected the orange light from the distant star, while weapon ports glowed with menacing energy. The mining colony orbiting the gas giant looked like a tiny speck compared to the enormous alien fleet that had just arrived. Admiral Kethfer stood on his command bridge, watching the human settlement through the main viewing screen. The mining station appeared to be a simple collection of connected modules and docking bays. Several small cargo ships moved between the station and nearby asteroids, completely unaware of the danger that now surrounded them. "Sir, all ships report ready for combat operations," Commander Vextel announced from his position. "Weapons are charged and shields are at maximum power." Kethfer nodded with satisfaction. The fleet looked magnificent arranged in their attack formation. Each ship was over 2 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to level continents. The humans had never seen anything like this before. They would surrender immediately once they understood the hopelessness of their situation. "Open communication channels on all frequencies," Kethfer commanded. "It is time to introduce these primitives to their new masters." The communication officer activated the transmission array. Every radio, television, and computer system in the human colony would now receive the Admiral's message. Kethfer had delivered this same speech to dozens of species over the years. Most surrendered before he finished speaking. Primitive humans. Kethfer's voice boomed across space. "You will surrender immediately or face complete annihilation. Your pathetic technology cannot resist the might of the glorious Xanathi Empire. Prepare for occupation. Resistance will result in the destruction of your entire species." The bridge crew watched the mining station through their sensors, expecting to see immediate signs of panic and surrender. Ships should be fleeing in terror. Communications should be filled with desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, the humans continued their normal activities, as if nothing had happened. "Strange," muttered Lieutenant Mordok. "They do not appear to be responding with the usual fear patterns." Commander Vextel checked his instruments. "Sir, the humans have definitely received our transmission. All their communication networks are active." Kethfer frowned. Perhaps these humans were too primitive to understand the threat they faced. Some species required a more direct demonstration of Xanathi power before they grasped reality. "Admiral," the sensor operator called out, detecting a single vessel departing from the human station. It appears to be approaching our position. On the main screen, a sleek ship emerged from the mining colony's docking bay. The vessel was angular and modern-looking, but laughably small compared to even the smallest Xanathi cruiser. Looked like a tiny insect flying toward a pack of hunting beasts. "Sir, the human ship is requesting communication," reported the communication officer. "Put him through," Kethfer ordered. "Let us hear what desperate bargain they wish to offer." The bridge speakers crackled with static before a calm human voice filled the command center. The translation computers converted the alien words into Xanathi language. "This is Captain James Mitchell of the United Earth ship Retribution. You have entered United Earth territory without proper authorization or diplomatic contact. I am ordering you to withdraw your fleet immediately. If you wish to establish diplomatic relations, we can arrange proper channels for peaceful discussion." Filled the Xanathi bridge for several seconds. Then Commander Vextal began to chuckle. Lieutenant Mordock joined him, followed by the weapons officer and navigation crew. Soon the entire bridge erupted in loud laughter. "Did you hear that?" Commander Vextal gasped between fits of laughter. "The human is ordering us to withdraw. He wants to arrange diplomatic channels," Lieutenant Mordock added, wiping tears from his eyes as if we were equals. Kethfer allowed his officers to enjoy the moment. The human's absurd confidence was genuinely amusing. Here was a single tiny ship facing 30 massive warships, and its captain was making demands like he held all the power. "Sir," the sensor operator reported while still grinning, "the human vessel has moved to within 1,000 kilometers of our formation. It appears to be maintaining a holding pattern." Kethfer studied the small ship on his screen. The vessel did look more advanced than the simple cargo haulers they had observed earlier. Its whole design suggested some attention to military considerations, though nothing that could threaten Xanathi shields and armor. Captain Mitchell Kethfer replied, making no effort to hide his amusement. "You seem to misunderstand your situation. We are the Xanathi Empire. We do not negotiate with primitives. We conquer them." "I understand perfectly," Captain Mitchell responded, his voice remaining completely calm. "You are an aggressive alien force that has invaded sovereign Earth space and threatened our citizens. You have exactly 5 minutes to begin withdrawing, or we will take appropriate defensive action." The laughter on the bridge grew even louder. Several officers had to support themselves against their control panels to keep from falling over. "Defensive action," Commander Vextal repeated. "One ship against 30? These humans must be insane. Perhaps their brains are damaged by radiation from living so close to this gas giant," suggested Lieutenant Mordock. Kethfer raised a hand for silence. While the human's bravado was entertaining, it was time to end this comedy and proceed with the conquest. "Captain Mitchell, observe the power that now commands your fate," Kethfer announced. He turned to his weapons officer. "Target the asteroid mining equipment near their station. Fire 1 plasma cannon at minimum power. Let them see what happens to those who defy the Empire." The weapons officer selected his target and fired. A brilliant beam of blue energy lanced out from the Xanathi flagship and struck a large mining platform attached to a nearby asteroid. The platform vaporized instantly in a flash of superheated gas and debris. "There," Kethfer said with satisfaction. "Now you understand what awaits your station if you continue this foolish resistance." Captain Mitchell's response came immediately, and his tone had not changed at all. "Admiral, that was an act of aggression against United Earth property. You now have 2 minutes to begin your withdrawal, or I will interpret your presence as a declaration of war." More laughter filled the bridge. The human was either completely insane or too stupid to recognize obvious reality. His ship was smaller than some of the Xanathi fleet's escape pods, yet he continued to make threats. "Sir," the communication officer reported, "the human ship is broadcasting on multiple frequencies. It appears to be sending some kind of coded transmission. It's probably calling for help," Commander Vextal observed. "Though what help could possibly arrive in time to save them?" Kethfer checked his chronometer. The human's self-imposed deadline was approaching rapidly. Soon, this amusing interlude would end, and the serious work of conquest could begin. The tiny human ship continued to hold its position, seemingly unafraid of the massive alien fleet surrounding it. Captain Mitchell waited patiently for the Xanathi response, as if he actually possessed some power to back up his impossible demands. Admiral Kethver's patience finally reached its limit. The human captain's ridiculous confidence had provided enough entertainment for one day. It was time to show this primitive species what real power looked like. The tiny ship floating before his massive fleet would serve as the perfect example for the rest of humanity. Captain Mitchell, Kethver said, his voice dripping with contempt. You have had your chance to surrender peacefully. Now witness the complete futility of resistance against the Xanathi Empire. The admiral turned toward his weapons officer, a veteran named Zekmoth, who had served in over 50 conquest campaigns. Zekmoth's 4 hands moved expertly across the targeting controls, selecting the optimal firing solution for the human vessel. Fire a warning shot, Kethver commanded. Minimum power setting. We want their ship damaged but not destroyed. Wish to interrogate this foolish captain personally before we execute him. Yes, Admiral, Zekmoth replied with obvious pleasure, targeting their propulsion systems now. The weapons officer made final adjustments to ensure the plasma beam would disable rather than vaporize the human ship. The Xanathi had perfected this technique over centuries of conquest. A precisely calibrated shot would cripple enemy vessels, while leaving the crew alive for questioning and eventual slavery. Firing in 3 seconds, Zekmoth announced. The bridge crew watched with anticipation as the main plasma cannon began to charge. Energy readings climbed rapidly while the weapon's focusing array aligned with deadly precision. This would be the moment when human arrogance met Xanathi reality. A brilliant blue-white beam erupted from the Dominator's primary weapon array. The plasma bolt crossed the distance between ships in microseconds, carrying enough energy to punch through the armor of any known starship. Similar weapons had reduced enemy fleets to clouds of expanding debris during the conquest of the Maltheri, the Vexkari, and dozens of other species. The human ship's shields flared, brilliant blue as the plasma beams struck their defensive barrier. Energy cascaded across the protective field in spectacular patterns of light and color. The bridge crew expected to see the shields collapse immediately, followed by the satisfying sight of the human hull buckling under the assault. Instead, something impossible happened. CG stared. Zekmoth stared at his instruments in confusion. Admiral, the human defensive systems are still operational. Energy readings show minimal drain from our attack. Check your weapons, Kethver snapped. You must have misfired. Negative, sir. All systems functioned perfectly. The plasma beam struck their ship with full force. Captain Mitchell's voice crackled over the communication system, sounding exactly as calm as before. Admiral Kethver, you have now committed an act of aggression against a United Earth vessel. You have 30 seconds to order your fleet to withdraw, or we will consider this a formal declaration of war. The humans' unshakable composure sent a chill through the Xanathi bridge crew. Their laughter had completely stopped. Several officers exchanged worried glances while others checked their sensor readings multiple times. Sir, the sensor operator reported nervously, the human ship shows no damage whatsoever. Their shields appear to be operating at full capacity. Kethver felt his first moment of genuine uncertainty in decades. No species had ever withstood Xanathi plasma weapons. Their energy output was calculated to overwhelm any known defensive technology. Yet this primitive human vessel had absorbed the attack without even flickering. Impossible, the Admiral muttered. Their technology cannot be that advanced. Observed their mining equipment and cargo ships. Everything appeared completely primitive. Commander Vextal stepped closer to his commanding officer. Sir, perhaps their shields were already reinforced for asteroid mining operations. Dense particle fields require stronger defensive systems. The explanation sounded reasonable, but Kethver remained troubled. Mining shields were designed to deflect rocks and cosmic radiation, not military-grade plasma weapons. Something about this situation felt wrong. Admiral Zekmoth called out, "Shall I increase power and fire again?" Considered his options. The human ship was obviously more durable than expected. but no defensive system could withstand a sustained bombardment from 30 Xanathi warships. Perhaps a single plasma bolt had been insufficient to penetrate their enhanced mining shields. Negative, Kethfer decided. If one shot will not convince them, we shall use overwhelming force. Signal all ships to target the human vessel. It's full broadside from the entire fleet. Sir, Commander Vextel said hesitantly, full bombardment will completely destroy their ship. We will lose the opportunity to interrogate the crew. Then we shall interrogate the survivors from their mining station, Kethfer replied coldly. This human captain has insulted the Empire with his defiance. He will serve as an example to the rest of his species. Throughout the Xanathi fleet, weapon officers received their targeting orders. Plasma cannons swiveled toward the lone human ship, while energy capacitors charged to maximum levels. The combined firepower of 30 warships would create a concentration of destructive force capable of cracking small moons. All ships report ready to fire, the communication officer announced. Kethfer took one final look at the human vessel. Captain Mitchell had maintained his position without any attempt to flee or take evasive action. Either he was completely insane, or he possessed some hidden advantage that Xanathi sensors could not detect. Fire all weapons, Kethfer commanded. Space erupted in brilliant light as hundreds of plasma cannons fired simultaneously. Energy beams converged on the human ship from every direction, creating a sphere of devastating power that should have instantly vaporized any matter caught within. The combined assault represented more destructive capability than most star systems had ever employed. The human shields flared again, this time creating a blazing aurora of blue and white energy that could be seen for thousands of kilometers. The defensive barrier absorbed wave after wave of plasma bolts while maintaining perfect structural integrity. Not a single beam penetrated to strike the ship's hull. When the bombardment finally ended, the UES Retribution remained exactly where it had been. No damage was visible. No systems appeared to be failing. The human vessel sat in space as if nothing had happened. Absolute silence filled the Xanathi bridge. Every officer stared at their instruments in disbelief while trying to process what they had just witnessed. 3 centuries of military doctrine had just been proven completely wrong. Sensor report, Kethfer demanded, in a hoarse whisper. Sir, the sensor operator replied with a shaking voice. The human ship shows 0 damage. Their shields are still operating at full power. Energy readings indicate no drain from our bombardment. Captain Mitchell's voice filled the bridge once more, still maintaining that infuriatingly calm tone. Admiral, you have now demonstrated hostile intent against united Earth forces. Withdraw your fleet immediately or face the consequences. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Kethfer had no idea what to do next. Captain James Mitchell stood calmly on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the countdown timer reach 0 on his command display. The 30 seconds he had given the Xanathi fleet to withdraw had expired. Around him, his crew waited, at their stations with professional readiness, their faces showing no fear despite being outnumbered 30-1. Warning period expired, Captain Mitchell announced in the same steady voice he had maintained throughout the entire encounter. Lieutenant Sarah Brooks, bring all weapon systems online. Lieutenant Brooks, a young woman with short blonde hair and steady blue eyes, moved her hands across the weapon control panel with practiced efficiency. Aye, sir. Activating primary and secondary weapon arrays, all systems showing green across the board. The UES Retribution began to transform before the astonished eyes of the Xanathi fleet. What had appeared to be decorative panels along the ship's sleek hull suddenly opened with mechanical precision. Hidden weapon ports revealed themselves as the human vessel shed its peaceful disguise and showed its true nature. Commander David Walsh, target their command ships first, Captain Mitchell ordered. We need to disrupt their coordination before they can organize a proper response. Commander Walsh, a tall man with graying hair and the bearing of a veteran officer, studied the tactical display showing the positions of all 30 Xanathi vessels. His fingers moved across the targeting computer as he selected priority targets based on size, weapon signatures, and command communications. Sir, I have locks on 7 command vessels, including their flagship, Walsh reported. Kinetic accelerators are charged and ready. Energy weapons standing by for secondary targets. Captain Mitchell nodded approvingly. The crew of the Retribution had trained for this moment for years, though he had hoped it would never come. Humanity preferred peaceful contact with other species, but they had learned long ago to prepare for the worst possibilities. Fire when ready, Commander. The first kinetic accelerator fired with a sound like thunder rolling through the ship's hull. A projectile the size of a telephone pole accelerated to 90% of light speed in less than 2 seconds. The magnetic coils that propelled it generated forces that would have crushed any normal matter. But the specially designed tungsten steel alloy remained intact as it streaked across space. Admiral Mulcathver was still staring at his sensor readings. When the first projectile struck his flagship, the kinetic round punched through the Dominator's energy shields as if they were made of paper. The Xanathi defensive barrier, which had protected against plasma weapons for 3 centuries, offered no resistance whatsoever to solid matter traveling at relativistic speeds. The projectile continued through the ship's armor plating, which had been designed to withstand energy weapons and explosive warheads. Against a solid object moving at near light velocity, the armor might as well have been made of cardboard. The round carved a perfectly straight hole through 17 decks. Before exiting the other side of the ship, what was that? Kethford demanded, as emergency alarms began wailing throughout his bridge. Sir, we have been hit by some kind of projectile weapon, his tactical officer reported with growing panic in his voice. It's a massive hull breach on decks 7 through 23. We are losing atmosphere and power throughout those sections. Before anyone could respond, the second kinetic round struck the Dominator near the engine section. This time the damage was even more severe as the projectile severed main power conduits and ruptured the primary reactor containment field. Commander, Walsh fired the remaining kinetic accelerators in rapid succession. Each shot was perfectly aimed at a different Xanathi command ship. The other flagship vessels suffered the same fate as the Dominator, solid rounds punching completely through their hulls and causing catastrophic damage to critical systems. Sir, 17 ships destroyed or disabled, Lieutenant Brooks reported as she switched to the energy weapons, activating particle beam arrays for the remaining targets. The Retribution's energy weapons represented technology that the Xanathi had never encountered. Instead of using plasma or focused radiation, the human weapons fired streams of exotic particles that had been discovered. During experiments with faster-than-light travel, these particles could pass through normal matter while depositing enormous amounts of energy directly into atomic structures. Brilliant beams of golden light erupted from the human ship's weapon ports. When they struck Xanathi vessels, the alien ships began to glow from within as their hull materials were heated beyond their melting points. Armor plating designed to withstand plasma bombardment simply liquefied under the assault of exotic particle streams. Admiral! The tactical officer on the Dominator screamed as his instruments registered impossible readings. Destroyed. Multiple vessels losing hull integrity. Our shields are completely useless against their weapons. Kethfer watched in horror as the pride of the Xanathi Empire was systematically destroyed by a single human vessel. Ships that had conquered dozens of star systems were being cut apart like toys. The advanced technology that had made the Xanathi the dominant force in known space proved worthless against human weapons. Return fire. Kethfer ordered desperately. All remaining ships, concentrate everything on that human vessel. The surviving Xanathi warships tried to respond, but their coordination had been shattered by the loss of most command vessels. Plasma cannons fired wildly in the general direction of the Retribution, but the human ship's shields continued to absorb every shot without visible strain. Commander Walsh calmly selected new targets as the Xanathi turned fire splashed harmlessly against their defensive barriers. Sir, targeting the remaining heavy cruisers. Estimate 90 seconds until all hostile vessels are neutralized. Proceed, Commander, Captain Mitchell replied. Try to leave some escape pods intact. We want survivors to carry word back to their empire. The battle, if it could even be called that, continued for exactly 8 more minutes. One by one, the Xanathi warships were reduced to expanding clouds of debris and emergency escape pods. The exotic particle beams carved through alien hulls like hot knives. Through butter while kinetic rounds punched clean holes through anything they hit. Admiral Kethfer found himself standing in the emergency command center of his flagship as the main bridge was evacuated due to hull breaches. Around him, his remaining officers struggled to maintain basic life support while the ship's systems failed one after another. "Sir, we have lost main power," Commander Vextall reported. "Backup generators are failing. I need to abandon ship." Immediately, through the emergency command center's viewing port, Kethver could see the human vessel hanging motionless in space. It showed no damage from the Xanathi counterattack. No systems appeared to be straining. The retribution looked exactly as it had when the battle began, as if destroying 30 warships had required no effort at all. The Admiral realized with growing terror that humanity had been toying with them from the very beginning. This had never been a battle between equals. It had been a demonstration of overwhelming technological superiority disguised as a fair fight. Admiral Kethver floated helplessly in the cramped emergency escape pod, his 4 eyes staring through the small viewport at the wreckage that had once been his mighty flagship. The Dominator, which had struck fear into the hearts of countless species across the galaxy, now drifted as a broken shell of twisted metal and exposed internal structures. Atmosphere leaked from dozens of hull breaches, creating small clouds of frozen gas that sparkled in the light of the distant star. The escape pod's life support system hummed quietly around him, providing barely enough air and heat to keep him alive. The Admiral's 6 arms hung limp at his sides as shock and disbelief overwhelmed his ability to process what had just happened. 3 centuries of Xanathi military dominance had ended in less than 10 minutes of combat against a single human vessel. Through the viewport, Kethver could see other escape pods scattered across the debris field. Tiny lights blinked on their hulls, indicating that other survivors were still alive inside their emergency shelters. Of the 30 proud warships that had entered this system, these small pods were all that remained. The rest had been reduced to expanding clouds of metal fragments and cooling plasma. The Admiral's communication system suddenly crackled to life with an incoming transmission. The signal was strong and clear, coming from the human vessel that still hung motionless in space nearby. Captain Mitchell's voice filled the small pod, sounding exactly as calm and controlled as it had throughout the entire encounter. "Admiral Kethver," the human captain began, his tone carrying what almost sounded like genuine sadness. "I hope you are receiving this transmission clearly." Kethver wanted to respond with anger and defiance, but the words stuck in his throat. What could he possibly say to the being who had just destroyed everything he had believed about Xanathi's superiority? His mandibles clicked nervously as he struggled to find his voice. "We know you are listening, Captain," Mitchell continued. "Your escape pod's communication array is still functional. We're monitoring all survivor signals to ensure your safety." Humans' concern for enemy survivors struck Kethver as bizarre. In 3 centuries of conquest, the Xanathi had never shown such consideration for defeated foes. Survivors were typically captured for slavery or eliminated if they proved troublesome. The concept of an enemy caring about their well-being was completely foreign. "Admiral, I want you to understand something very important." Captain Mitchell's voice carried a weight of absolute certainty. "Humanity tried peace first. We always do. When we detected your fleet approaching our territory, we hoped for diplomatic contact. We sent a single ship to meet you with offers of negotiation and mutual understanding." Kethver remembered his crew's laughter when the tiny human vessel had approached their massive fleet. They had mocked Captain Mitchell's attempts at peaceful communication, treating his diplomatic overtures as signs of weakness and desperation. "But when forced to defend ourselves," the human captain continued, "we do not show restraint. We cannot afford to show restraint. The universe is filled with species like yours, Admiral. Aggressive civilizations that view peaceful intentions as opportunities for easy conquest." The Admiral's sensors detected movement in space nearby. The UES Retribution was slowly turning away from the debris field, sleek hull reflecting the orange light of the system's star. The human warship showed no battle damage whatsoever, despite having faced 30 Xanathi vessels in combat. "Your Empire's aggression ends today," Captain Mitchell announced with quiet finality. Not just here in this system, but everywhere. Cannot allow civilizations that prey upon peaceful species to continue their expansion unchecked. His viewport, Kethfer watched the human ship's engines begin to glow with preparation for departure. The vessel that had single-handedly destroyed the most powerful fleet in known space was preparing to leave as casually as if it had completed a routine patrol mission. "Tell your people what you have witnessed here," Captain Mitchell instructed. "Tell them that humanity does not seek conquest or domination. We want only to live in peace and to protect other peaceful species from those who would harm them." The retribution suddenly vanished in a flash of brilliant light as it entered hyperspace. The human ship had disappeared as quickly and efficiently as it had arrived, leaving behind only the wreckage of Xanathi ambitions and the scattered survivors who would carry word of this disaster back to their empire. "How?" Kethver whispered into the empty void surrounding his pod. "How did they become so powerful while appearing so primitive?" His question received no answer from the cold vacuum of space. The escape pod sensors continued their automatic monitoring of nearby objects, tracking the slowly spreading debris field and the positions of other survivor pods. But now those same sensors began detecting something that filled the Admiral with a new kind of terror. Multiple hyperspace signatures were appearing throughout Xanathi's space. The pod's long-range communication array picked up frantic transmissions from Xanathi. Colonies and military bases across 12 star systems. Human warships were emerging from hyperspace near every major Xanathi world simultaneously. "This is Admiral Vexkari of the Third Fleet," came a panicked voice over the military communication channels. "Unknown human vessels have appeared throughout our home system. They are demanding immediate cessation of all military operations and the release of all enslaved populations." Similar reports flooded in from every corner of the Xanathi Empire. Human fleets had materialized at every important world, space station, and military installation. The coordination required for such a massive operation suggested planning and resources far beyond anything the Xanathi had imagined possible. "All Xanathi forces," came another transmission from a base commander. "The humans are not attacking our civilian populations. They are systematically destroying only military targets and slave-holding facilities. They demand surrender of all combat vessels and the immediate liberation of enslaved species." Kethver realized with growing horror that the single ship they had encountered was not some special prototype or experimental vessel. It represented the standard level of human military technology. If humanity could deploy dozens or hundreds of such ships across multiple star systems simultaneously, then the Xanathi Empire faced an enemy whose power dwarfed their own to an almost incomprehensible degree. The Admiral's communication system received one final transmission from an unknown human source. The voice was different from Captain Mitchell's, belonging to someone with clear authority over multiple fleets. "People of the Xanathi Empire," the voice announced, "your 3 centuries of aggression and conquest are over. Human forces now control all major military installations in your territory. We offer you a choice: abandon your aggressive expansion and release all enslaved populations, or face complete military defeat. You have 24 hours to comply." As Kethver floated in his tiny escape pod among the ruins of his once mighty fleet, he understood that the Xanathi Empire had indeed died in those 10 minutes of combat. Not just the ships and weapons, but the entire foundation of Xanathi power had crumbled when they encountered a species that refused to be intimidated by their threats. The stars around him looked different now, no longer representing territories to be conquered, but reminders of how small and insignificant the Xanathi had always been in the vast universe.